I wanted to talk about the performance of femininity so that men can abuse women. We live in a world in 2018 where finally, for the first time ever, it is socially and legally unacceptable to subordinate women. Now, if your identity demands the subordination of women, demands the subordination of female identities, demands that female perception is subordinated to you, demands that female boundaries, especially sexual boundaries, are ignored by you, what you are expressing is masculinity. When Monroe Bergdorf says that she needs every woman in the world subordinated to her, and she needs women not to discuss inequality they live because it makes her penis feel bad, his penis feel bad, that's not womanhood. That's an expression of masculinity. And that masculinity can't be expressed legally as a man. It doesn't become normal or womanhood because it's expressed as femininity. The performance of femininity to subordinate women is an expression of masculinity. Transgenderism is manhood. And I'm really sorry, but there isn't a dress or a lipstick on the planet that's going to stop women being able to identify abusive males. If you genuinely cannot cope in a world where women are not living to validate your identity, if you cannot cope in a world where women are not subordinating their identity to you, if you cannot cope in a world where women discuss their own lives without reference to you, if you need their perception subordinated to you, it's because you're mentally ill and because you're a man. Feminism, where you get to punch women because your penis makes you feel bad, and where lesbians have to do dick. What I identify as, I spoke in an earlier video about what happens if you construct a false identity for yourself, and the way that narcissists do it, and the way if you construct an idealized identity for yourself, you have to create an object onto which you project your dysfunction. These people are doing exactly that. I identify as a woman, so therefore feminism is that lesbians have to do dick, all women have to subordinate to me, and every woman on the planet has to manage my identity. Have you ever noticed that I identify as always comes up with a mirror? It always will. It's the same as I identify as a socialist, so I need to stop discussion of welfare reform. It's just the same thing. It's quite an interesting process to watch, and I think it's interesting that whatever you put through the prism of our media comes out the same way. I identify as, oh, look, it's abusive women. But let me be clear, what Monroe Bergdorf is expressing, what Paris Lees is expressing, what Ros Cavini are expressing, what Sean Fay is expressing, they are expressing outlawed, abusive masculinity through the performance of femininity. And their expectation that a nation of women fully able to identify and manage abusive males were going to swallow that bullshit. It's ridiculous. Now, this is a long, drawn-out and horrible process, and we are about to go through a really serious backlash where people start listening to what these people say. But actually, Miranda Yardley said some interesting things about the differing concepts of gender identity at that meeting, and she was saying feminists believe that gender is a system of social subordination, external constructs. It is. Gender identity, which believes that you have an innate need to subordinate women, is exactly the same thing. Yes, gender identity is real. Yes, these people have internalized gender. Yes, they are expressing it through femininity. It's masculinity. It's men who are not allowed to abuse women anymore. Men who are not allowed to live in a world where women will exist to manage their identity. Men where women will not actually ignore their own boundaries. There was never a question, ever, of equality legislation granting you the right to have women subordinate their perception to you. There was never a right to have women include you in their thoughts, and the minute you start demanding that, you show yourself up as male. I think this is the most hilarious demonstration ever. I feel a great deal of sympathy for the transsexuals in that statement earlier. But I do actually think the expression of abusive masculinity through femininity, through performance of femininity by people like Paris Lees, Ros Cavini, Sean Fay, is really interesting. I think you should watch these people. And I also think you should know that because of the nature of their disorder, what they will always do is they will always accuse people of their own behaviour because they can't see past their own identity, because they have created an object onto which they project their own dysfunction to attack. What's really, really useful, particularly Sean Fay is the best example of this. Ros Cavini is another one. If you imagine them arguing with a mirror, they're telling you all the things that they don't like about themselves, all the accusations that they make. They're telling you it's the most reliable compass you have. But what these actually are is mentally disordered males expressing abusive masculinity through performance of femininity, and now they're utterly shocked that a nation of women have just gone, fuck off, you silly fucker.